Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome along everyone. Last weekend, last Sunday that was, I rough turned all of these 5 walnut boxes. Now they've just been sat here just like this in my shed throughout the week. So it's been 6 days now and I've just come out and just took some measurements again. And they've all lost roughly about 10% in weight. And this particular one in the middle here, which I'm guessing because it was the middle part of the branch, has lost the most moisture. Took a moisture reading on this and about the highest I can find on this is about 10.5% moisture. So it seems pretty dry and it doesn't look like it's warped very much either. I'm going to try and finish this one off. It's going to cause a bit of interest on this because I do have a knot on the side here. So I'll see how that goes. Fortunately for the bottom part of the box, it's only on the edge lip there, so this may well get turned away. And I don't know whether you can actually see this on the camera. If I can find it on here, there are a few places of spalting on there, and it's just a piece there, a little bit there, some really pale stuff here. Now people do these boxes different ways. Some people prefer to put the tenon in the lid, some people prefer to put the tenon in the base. So there's no real hard and fast rule which way you should do it. I do some ways, I do some the other ways. So not sure which way around I'll do this one yet. I'm going to get this on the lathe. I will probably start off by putting on the lid on there first of all and just starting to shape that, truing it up, put either a mortise or a tenon on here, then that way I can turn it around, do the opposite for the base, bring them up together, and then finally shaping off the whole lid. Once the lid is shaped off, I can then just finish off the actual what's left on the box body. Now hopefully you can just see here now where this knot is. I've just cleaned it out with a nail just to get rid of all the loose stuff out of there, and it goes in there fairly deep. It stops just inside about here. Now I may keep that, some of it may get turned away. Now I think because this knot is so far to the edge there, if I put a tenon on here, I'm going to take the walls down and then the knot is going to come right out on the edge and it's going to look a lot worse. So in this case I really do need to put a mortise inside here. Now that knot is still playing a fairly prominent role in there. I don't know whether I want to keep that or not as it is. I think I'm going to leave it for now. So that's now been sanded to 600 and I'll just give that a coat of sanding sealer. I'll just let that dry off and then I shall sand that back again with the 600. Now that's just had a coat of wood wax 22 and because of that knot hole in there it's accumulated the wax. So just try and clear that out as best as possible. That is actually giving me a fair bit of tear out on there, so I'll try a bit of a peeling cut. That is really important to do lots of regular checks because you will soon find that you go through that area where you need to take it down to. that's a really tight fit on there now. So as I go down, I can loosen this off a little bit, but for now I'd rather it's tight so that the lid stays on. Now I don't know whether I like this so much now. I don't like this overall dome shape, and the trouble is as well, this knot is basically coming through here and it's coming out here. And it's another knot hole here, which is what goes right through from the pith. That I can't do anything about, but this one is just a piece of wood just here, which is holding it in place. Now what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to make this more of a flatter base, and then just curve over this edge so it just takes out this wall, so this knot then will be breaking the edge. Right, that's a lot better. Just re-sand up this top part of the lid. Right, that's the lid now finished off. It's sanded, and that knot to me does look a lot better on the angle there. I've just softened the edges with sandpaper. Now I didn't notice, but my camera died while just tidying up the inside here, and I used my side scraper there, and rather than having it at a flat angle like that, I just tipped it up so that it just takes a lot lighter cuts when it's scraping this off, just to try and reduce any tear out. And across the bottom I've got my little box scraper, which these are absolutely ideal because of the curved edges. You can put this right up against the side of the box. What I've done so far, I've just sanded this all inside to 600. I have given it a coat of sanding sealer, and I've just sanded it back again with the 600 paper. Now because before I just wax this with the Wood Wax 22 like I've done in the inside of the lid, but before I do that, because this is such a tight fit, I mean I really don't want to push that on much harder than that. You can see the gap there still, and I don't want to really be taking this down anymore with using probably like something like the skew chisel. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep cutting this back with sandpaper, and until I get the fit I want. At least this way you take a lot less off. Right, that should hopefully do it now. I don't want it too loose, especially when the wax gets on. It's going to probably become a little bit slipperier, but that seems to be a reasonable fit now. So I'm going to give the inside of this a coat of wood wax 22, like I did with the inside of the lid, and then I can put these back together like this and give the outside wood wax sand and sealer, and then wood sand it back, and then wood wax 22. Finally part this off, and then I will possibly look at seeing if I've got a way of maybe with a jam chuck or something to tidy the bottom up. Now I've finished all the outside off. I gave it a coat of sand and sealer, sanded it back with 600 and wood wax 22, and it's only had the one coat and it's come up really nicely. Now here I've just created a jam chuck, and the reason for this is I have just tried to sand this bottom off on my drill press with a sanding head on there, and you can probably see it from here. This is what happens when you cut through this wood. You get this really deep tear out, and the only way to really deal with that is it's either an awful lot of sanding or you've got to cut it back. Now the best way to cut this back is straight through with a very sharp cut, and I've found that the best way on that then is to use the skew to do a cut right across the base. So that's what I'm going to do now. Now the only thing is I have to be sort of fairly careful on this, because I don't want to put too much pressure on it going sideways. Normally when you put on a jam chuck like this, you will work pushing that way all the while, so that you then do your cuts, push down and then come across. But by doing that, we're going to probably still create more tear out. Doing it this way, it's almost like a knife going through butter. So it just cuts the fibres off as the point on the skew is nice and sharp. And any tear out there now is actually quite small, so I'll sand this up now while it's on the lathe, so that this can then be finished off. But just that one cut has just reduced the amount of tear out there now. You can still see the tear out, it's small, little pitiless, but I don't want to go too deep, take too much off here. And all I've done on the bottom there was did my usual signature, date and the wood type, gave it a coat of sanding sealer, sanded it back with the 600 grit paper again, and then given that a coat of wood wax 22. So that's a fairly simple project this week, but the good thing this just shows that from having a very wet branch last weekend, rough turned the boxes, and they've only been left out here in the shed for probably what, around about 6 days at the most, and come back and turn and finish one off, which has turned out really nice. I really do like these knots go through here. I think it gives it a bit of character. The lid, it's not what you call a suction fit. It does feel like a suction fit, but it really can't be, because you've got air holes in the top and in the bottom. So this one here is the main pith of the branch, which goes through and then comes out on the top there, also in the lid there. And this was an additional knot which was coming out of the side of the branch, and it was going up at an angle like that. This is what I like about wood turning. You pick up a piece of wood, you have an idea of what you want to make from it, but it's as you go along you find little areas that you're not happy with and you do the changes. So initially I started with that really domed lid and I just didn't like it, and what really got me to change it was because of the knot that was on the side here. Part of the knot was still covered on the wood, so it was like a hole going through, and I just didn't like that bit, full stop. So by taking it down, it's just exposed this knot fully, and I just think it gives it a bit more extra character on the piece. Now there is a bit of spalting on this, and again hopefully it will show up on the pictures, but I don't know whether it will show on the camera here. We've got some spalting across the bottom here, and that's interesting because it's just the wood been left out on my decking for probably about the last year to 2 years. It's obviously got the weather, and it's just picked up spalting in it, so it will be interesting to see what some of the last pieces come out like. Now, the one thing I have found out with this wood is that you get an awful lot of tear out, and hopefully you will see it really well on that piece, that they are really big, deep pieces of tear out. So if you use something like a parting tool where that was initially cut going across there, it doesn't matter what method you use it at, whether you just try and do it to ride the bevel or whether you use it in a form of a scraper, you get that tear out. And the only way I found to combat that was to do like a knife cut with the skew. So you just use the skew point to go through. You've got that really sharp edge which then cuts through the fibres and doesn't tear them out from underneath. So there is still a little bit of tear out on this, but it's so minimal now compared to what it was like. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next project video.